It's a good AGam in Kansas morning. Good morning. Let's take a look and see what's coming up today.
First, Brad Shogren from McPherson County discusses his diversified farm operation and the conservation methods he employs. Then Lane Letourneau talks about implementing the newly updated water vision. Next, Ron Graber, a K-State Extension Watershed Specialist, tells us about his work with livestock watersheds. And we learn tips for cattle producers in a changing market. We'll end as Dr. Chris Blevins and Dr. Teresa Douthit discuss equine nutrition for older horses. Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
I'm Brad Shogren. I'm a producer from McPherson County in central Kansas. We're a diversified farm operation with my son. We raise a variety of different crops: corn, soybeans, wheat, sorghum, sometimes some sunflowers, alfalfa, and we do have some irrigated land that we water our crops with. We also have a stocker backgrounding operation at home to where we feed a few livestock every year. We employ several different conservation methods to enhance and improve our ground. Probably the backbone of what our ground that we use would be our terraces and waterways, which we use to eliminate the soil erosion on our farm. We're not no-till, but use conservation tillage, where we try and leave a certain amount of residue on the surface. We're always looking for new and better methods that we can utilize. We've employed and used some grass strips along some streams to prevent some fertilizer and herbicide runoff to enter those streams. And while we're talking about streams, one of the big problems in our area is we have a lot of stream banks that are becoming unstable and going vertical on us, that can cause considerable erosion, loss of farm ground. And then they're working for over the last 10 or 15 years to address some of those sites with different techniques and methods to stabilize those banks. On a local level, I serve on our Conservation District Board. I'm currently chairman. I've been on that board for 10 or 12 years. Through that endeavor, I was elected to the State Conservation Commission. So I serve now as a governing body for the Division of Conservation under the Kansas Department of Agriculture. Also been involved in the RAPS groups in our local area in the formation of our Smoky River RAP. And that group was formed to address the stream bank sites on the Smoky Hill. We've been very effective in that group to where we've done somewhere around 20 sites on the river, and there's still much more that needs to be done. We're also looking at employing different methods to address the water quality concerns that are in the Smoky. We're looking at the livestock facilities up and down the river to make sure that there's no runoff coming off those facilities and to improve the stream flow. And in the Smoky, there's no impediments such as herbicide carryover, but we are aware of what's going on there. So we do promote good management of those herbicides when they are applied.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com. Heinen Brothers, a fourth-generation Northeast Kansas farm family, knows how tough farming can be. Farmers helping farmers. Heinen Brothers Ag, selling and servicing crop protection products, fertilizer, anhydrous ammonia, cover crops, quality aerial and ground application. Call today to learn about our extended term financing program, 800-760-4964. HeinenBrothersAg.com.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard.
And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome. Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484. Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
AGam in Kansas, brought to you in part by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
A lot has happened in this last year. We've had, multiple meetings. We established 14 different regions in Kansas because there's so much variation on the water supply, recharge in the different aquifers. So it was important to make sure that we understood those differences because one size does not fit all in Kansas. We established goal-setting teams, and those teams worked very hard to come up with what's considered SMART goals in their regions. They're specific and they're measurable, and each one of those then presented those to the Kansas Water Authority, and the Water Authority adopted those goals. Then the next step, we established regional advisory committees. That was kind of a transition from the basin advisory committees, but these regions are not on basin boundaries, they're actually on aquifer boundaries. And so we have the 14 regional advisory committees. Those goals have been handed off to those regional advisory committees. Also with the vision, we had a number of action items to do. One of the action items was asking us then to look at our statutes and regulations to make sure that they're up to date and they truly implement what we're doing. And today we presented 4 draft rules that we're still getting feedback. It's really important that we get feedback from people, and to talk about those a little bit, sealing meters to the pipe to make sure that the integrity of our water use data is maintained. And so a second rule is limiting the movement of a point of diversion in a declining aquifer. We heard over and over, and what it started was once a well goes bad, no more re-drills in the Ogallala. Folks didn't want their neighbor or themselves to chase water. And so what we have drafted is limit that movement to 300 feet. If they can demonstrate with that science that where they move to does not have an impact to their neighbors, we will allow a longer movement then. Or then also if spacing improves a situation, say there's an impairment situation, they want to move out of that. So there will be some exceptions to that rules. Civil penalties. Unfortunately, in Kansas, we've got a handful of people that will pay the civil penalty for not filing an annual water use report. Therefore, we want to increase those penalties of just suspending water use until they file that annual water use report. And then the fourth one is we heard so much that the civil penalties that we have in place now are not nearly high enough, and it really became a cost of doing business, whether a producer was going to overpump or tamper with their meter or something to get an advantage of more authorized quantity overpumping. Therefore, and then also they said if we need to expire that penalty after a number of years, much like a driver's license for speeding. Therefore, we're giving consideration to expiring the civil penalty after 5 years, but then starting implementing the overpumping penalty in a narrower window, and then also looking at suspension of water use.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop liquid crop nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Watch AGam in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com. Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm Ron Graber, K-State Extension Watershed Specialist. I work in the central part of Kansas, and one of the things that I do as part of my job is to try to educate or help livestock producers understand how their feeding operations might impact streams and waterways from an environmental standpoint. And the things that we're concerned about with livestock feeding operations when we look at water quality are bacteria and nutrients that might leave that feeding operation and end up in the nearby streams. So we spend quite a bit of time talking to these guys about maybe where they locate their feeding pens, getting them a little further away from a stream, about the slope from the pens to where that stream's at, and what's between the pens. So we really like to get a little separation in there and be able to put maybe a vegetative grass buffer in there, or maybe a sediment basin that we can trap some of those solids as they come out of the concentrated feeding areas before they get to the streams. And if we can do that, then we can separate out a lot of those solids that might contribute the harmful bacteria or again the nutrients. So we really work with them on location of their feeding pens, and then kind of how far from the stream and how they manage that. We really talk to them quite a bit about regular scraping of pens and spreading that waste material on agronomic fields. We also, from a livestock standpoint, will talk about where winter feeding sites are located. For years we've had the ring feeder in the bunks, maybe in the pasture or the corn stalk field, and we might have them fairly close to a stream because that's where there's some winter protection and maybe a water source there too. So we've really talked to them about moving that a little further away, maybe getting it up on the hilltop and putting that feeder in those bunks up there, and that way we don't have the livestock or the cattle loafing down near the stream. And so a fairly inexpensive, fairly easy change, but from a environmental impact standpoint, it really can be pretty dramatic. So we've worked with them a lot on those kinds of things, providing some alternative watering sites as well. And it's interesting that if you we'll provide that tank, again, kind of up on the hill or away from the stream. We find that most often cattle prefer to drink out of that tank as opposed to out of the stream. And again, we get them away from the stream, and they're not spending a lot of time loafing down there by the stream and under the trees. And we move that waste material a little further away. So those are some of the things that we've done. And guys have been really receptive to talking about those kinds of things, and I think they're really interested. They just need somebody to talk to and kind of understand how all of that works and what a practical and a lot of times not terribly expensive way of doing it is.
I'm a patient of Kansas Regenerative Medicine in Manhattan. I had stem cell therapy in my hips and my left knee. My wife and I both are patients. We went down there the same day in November. Since then, my hips are feeling a lot better. I can work now most of the day if I want to. And before, if I worked in the morning, I was done in the afternoon, or if I worked in the afternoon, I was sure enough done for the rest of the day.
Now another gardening tip with Annette Jackson.
Fall is a great time to plant trees, shrubs, and perennials. Root development this fall means more growth with less watering next year. For faster root growth, always use Fertilome Root Stimulator. It is the only stimulator which contains IBA rooting hormone. Use Fertilome tree and shrub food after the plant has been planted for a month.
Save 25% now on Jackson's homegrown hardy perennials. Let Jackson's friendly staff help you select the best plants for your landscape.
This segment brought to you by Heinen Brothers Ag, farmers helping farmers by offering quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia. Call today to protect your crop yield.
Volatility, funds, risk management. If you've heard cattle market commentary in the past few months, you've heard all of these. A lot. Commodity broker Doug Dietz says the landscape is changing as rebuilding begins. Noticeable gains in cow herd inventory will begin to appear in 2016.
Then the multiplier effect kicks in. You've got more cows, more calves sitting in the ground, more beef production the following year or the 18 months down the road. So right now, though, we're expanding a liquidating herd, so we're just now making that switch from liquidation to expansion, and that's why supplies have been so restricted this year. But beginning next year, you'll gradually begin to see an increase in cattle supplies and beef supplies show up on the market. And it will exponentially increase every year after, as long as we continue in an expansion phase.
That's why index fund investors have left the market. They see long-term lower prices. Commodity funds that lost money are looking for more lucrative ventures. And that's why today's cattle market presents unique challenges.
What does a guy do? If you're in the business, you still got to be in the business. And it's a difficult decision. I think you basically just have to stay with your plan. There's not a risk management opportunity right now. If you have to do something, you buy a minimum pricing strategy like a long put option and leave the top side open of the market.
Dietz also says there is one constant that can help buffer some of the wild swings.
If you handle quality cattle, and many of us do anymore, stay with the program. That hasn't changed. That's been probably the most consistent thing through this whole process, is the demand for high quality beef has held up extremely well. There are still premiums out there. You can still get them. Why anybody would veer from that is beyond me.
I'm Bob Cervera.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Hello friends, I'm Ernie Rodina.
And I'm Dawn Dawson with the Better Horses Radio Show.
For over 9 years, we've been bringing the Better Horses Radio Show to markets all across the Midwest. We talk about God, lots about horses.
We talk about cows, we talk about horse health, we talk to top trainers, and we even talk about Roy Rogers.
We're having a blast with Better Horses Radio Show and would love to take it to a market near you.
So visit our website at betterhorsesradio.com and let us or your local radio station know you'd like to hear it in your area.
The Better Horses Radio Show is unbelievable.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
AGam in Kansas is brought to you in part by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
Hello and welcome to Horse and Around. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins at Veterinary Health Center here at Kansas State University, joined today by Dr. Teresa Douthit. Welcome.
Hello.
Dr. Douthit is an equine nutritionist over in animal science and is an associate professor over there, and does great projects, has great information about horse nutrition. And today I thought that we would have you just kind of talk a little bit about older horses and maybe some aspects of maybe starting with management of older horses, or what people should do when they have an older horse that maybe they didn't realize how to feed them.
Okay. Well, you know, a lot of people know and realize that as horses get older, it gets hard to maintain weight on those horses. They start to lose weight. It gets hard to keep them looking good. Pretty soon you can see the ribs and the hip bones, you know, become prominent. And owners, you know, they know that this is an issue, and a lot of times they don't maybe realize exactly what's going on. In these horses, there's really 3 different things that kind of come to mind for me. One, a lot of times their teeth get pretty poor, and they have a hard time really chewing and you know, really being effective when they consume roughage in particular. And so dental care becomes really important in these horses. You know, these horses, a lot of times you'll see them dropping feed and excess salivation and things, but you might not see that either. And so in these horses, as a veterinarian, as you know, it's really important to get their teeth floated routinely, or at least checked. Yeah. So teeth is an issue. Another one, a lot of times these geriatric horses become very submissive, and they, you know, if they're fed in a group situation, the other horses tend to get all the feed, and the geriatric horse backs away. It won't fight for the feed, and so that can become an issue. One, they won't fight for the feed. They're really submissive and they'll back away. But 2, they eat very slowly, and so a lot of times with these geriatric horses, we need to somehow modify our management practices to make sure they're getting enough feed.
You know, and I think that's really a great point, is some people just forget about that of hierarchy and just the feeding and by nature kind of how horses interact. So that is really good points. The other thing, you know, that I always hear from owners, and you probably do too, is we need to change their food. Do we have to change, you know, they're old, we got to feed them old horse feed or something like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, with old horses, because their teeth are not very good and their ability to absorb nutrients declines over time as well, they do need higher quality feeds. And a lot of people want to focus on the grain, but you know, the basis of an equine ration should be hay. We need to make sure whatever roughage we're feeding the horse is really good quality. You know, a mature horse probably, you know, may do fine on mature prairie hay, but a geriatric horse probably is not going to. You know, he needs some higher quality hay. And the other thing, you know, the big thing with these horses is just getting as many calories into them as we can. And so generally something with a high fat content, fat is easily digestible. It's something the horse handles really well, and it's got more calories than anything else. So whether that be purchasing a high fat feed or top dressing with corn oil, you know, anything we can do to increase the fat content in the diet. And with the teeth issues, if the horse, even if we've got high quality hay, sometimes they can't eat it very well. And if that's the case, we may need to switch to something like a complete feed that has the fiber source already in the feed. You know, it's been processed, and so usually it's, you know, kind of a pelleted form, and so the horse doesn't have to chew it up as well. And a lot of times, you know, like a complete senior feed would use something like beet pulp, which is really highly digestible, and so you'll see a lot of that in senior rations. And so, you know, you can start with making sure you've got good quality hay. If the horse isn't eating it, however, you may want to consider a complete ration, and where the pelleted feed provides everything the horse needs. You know, if they want to eat hay, great, but they don't have to, because they're getting the forage and the other feed source along with supplementing fat.
And I think those are really great information about just feeding the older horse. And I think if people have questions, they have older horses, they can sure contact their veterinarian, but also equine nutritionists will really be helpful in that kind of information that's needed to kind of feed an older horse. So you can sure get a hold of Dr. Douthit. She's at the Animal Science Department in the university. And then at the vet school here, you could always get a hold of us too, and we can get you in contact with Dr. Douthit if needed for that too. Well, thank you for joining us for Horsing Around, and thank you, Dr. Douthit.
You're welcome.
I'm Dr. Chris Blevins at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center, and we'll see you around.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. To see this show and past episodes of AGam in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.